Hi. Okay. Welcome back to another SBN mini live. My name is Chelsea. As always, I am the Natropath and Nutritionist here at Slim by Nature, and I will be hosting today's mini live. So, some of you may have seen today we're talking about inflammation. It's quite a commonly used word, and I think it does come with a lot of fear, so I think it's really nice to understand a little bit more about what inflammation is, and then we'll discuss some common symptoms of inflammation and what you can do about it. So firstly, I just want to start off with a stat that's a little bit mind-blowing. So 3 out of 5 people die. I know we're starting morbid. 3 out of 5 people die due to chronic inflammatory diseases. Now, chronic inflammatory diseases include a large variety of diseases like cardiovascular diseases, cancers. Lots of those chronic illnesses are all inflammatory based. The other thing about inflammation is mostly we have a lot of control over our levels of inflammation, and there's a lot that we can do to be able to reduce them or to better manage them, which is a really great thing. It means that we have a lot of control, we have a lot of power to kind of influence and impact our current and future health. So what is inflammation? It's basically an immune response that occurs in our bodies to help protect us from any infections that might be caused by any outside invaders. So acute inflammation is a very good thing. It's a protective response to avoid that pathogen, I guess, taking hold and causing some sort of an illness within our body. Basically, we need this acute inflammation to, first of all, help our body, but then once that initial pathogen or initial cause of the inflammation has been effectively cleared, we want our bodies to go back to normal and back to a level of homeostasis. What happens is this doesn't often happen due to our lifestyles and factors that we'll get into. Often the inflammatory response remains, and that's when it becomes chronic. And if the inflammatory response lasts longer than what it needs to, it can begin to cause damage within our cells and our tissues, and that's where it can lead to those chronic inflammatory diseases. So it's really important to distinguish that acute inflammation is beneficial. It's a response that we do need as part of our immune system, whereas chronic is potentially damaging. So chronic inflammation, potentially damaging. So to be able to kind of figure out whether or not you're inflamed, I have a massive long list of questions. And I'll just kind of give you an example. So this gives a really good indication or a really good picture of some of the factors that can cause chronic inflammation within our bodies. So do you feel low moods for no apparent reason? Do you feel tired and fatigued often? Another thing also to note about inflammation or chronic inflammation is that when certain cells are damaged or certain tissues or areas of the body are damaged, the functions that happen within or around those systems of the body are going to be somewhat compromised. So, for example, you can understand why someone who is chronically inflamed may feel tired or may have low moods. A lot of that comes to do with inflammation that may be in the gut. If the gut is inflamed, we're unable to absorb the nutrients from the food that we're eating, which then means that they're not available to be able to produce the precursors that we need for happy hormones for happy moods. So, for example, serotonin. Serotonin needs a lot of B vitamins, magnesium, even iron to be able to effectively produce enough. We need a lot of serotonin to keep us feeling happy, to keep us pain-free, to then help us sleep because it's converted into melatonin. So if we're chronically inflamed, we're likely to have a lot of that inflammation in the gut. Then we can't absorb nutrients, and then the processes that actually use those nutrients to convert into our neurotransmitters and hormones are also going to be compromised. So more questions to help determine whether or not you're inflamed or whether you may be. And also while I'm going through these, I will just say most people have some level of underlying chronic inflammation. It's very personal. And it's more of a question of, okay, what can I do to reduce that chronic inflammation? It would be lovely to get rid of it altogether. Certainly chronic, actually. Acute inflammation will come and go, but we would really like to completely minimize or get rid of chronic inflammation where it's not needed. Do you often wake up feeling groggy? Do you feel less motivated? Do you have any problems sleeping? Are you more anxious than usual? Do you experience any brain fog? Are you forgetful? Do you experience gas, bloating, or general stomach distress, diarrhea, constipation? Again, very, very linked to gut inflammation, heartburn or reflux, painful, heavy, or irregular periods. Now, this also comes back to hormone balance, which is also highly affected by inflammatory or particularly chronic inflammation within the body. Do you have any allergies, food intolerances? Do you experience any rashes? Again, rashes are often a representation or kind of a byproduct of what's going on in our gut. I often like to explain eczema on the skin. So a lot of us will know what eczema or some sort of a rash or dermatitis, but it's easy if you picture eczema. So it's flaky, it might be a bit red, it's itchy, it looks very unhappy. Our gut lining almost looks the exact same. So it is a direct kind of representation. What happens in the gut gets sent straight to our skin through our blood. And there's actually a lot of research that shows that people with eczema or dermatitis or whatever other skin conditions, they've found that they have particles from the gut wall in their kind of skin presentation. And so that's a really good indication that what's going on in the gut is also going on in the skin. And both of these are due, in some part at least, to chronic inflammation. Okay, we will move through a few more of the others. So do you ever experience headaches or migraines, cold hands and feet? Is your waist circumference equal to or greater than your hip circumference? So that is a really good measure of insulin resistance and obviously of adiposity. Do you smoke? So these are getting more now into lifestyle and dietary factors that are likely large causes of inflammation. If you say yes or think yes to any of these, there's almost certainly going to be some level of unnecessary inflammation in your body. So do you smoke? Do you crave sugar and or carbs? Do you eat red or processed meat more than once a week? So this would be sausages, deli meats, smoked meats, barbecues. Those kind of things are all highly processed and are classified as a group 1 carcinogen, which means a group 1 cancer-causing agent. So they are definitely something we want to be avoiding for general health, but particularly if we're thinking about our levels of inflammation. Do you eat sugary food or drinks most days? Do you eat fried or oily food more than twice a week? I would say even less so than that would be ideal, but this is just to give you a general picture of certain factors that can contribute. Do you drink more than 5 alcoholic standard drinks per week? Do you have heart disease, diabetes, cancer, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, arthritis, heartburn, or any other chronic conditions? So those are also all examples of chronic inflammatory conditions as well. Okay, so those are, I guess, some examples of what may present if you have chronic inflammation or other factors that may be causing the chronic inflammation. So now we'll talk briefly about what you can do about it. Firstly, when it actually comes to fighting inflammation, we're basically stopping those inflammatory responses when they need to be stopped. So once that initial kind of pathogen or toxin or whatever is caused the initial immune response has been removed, we want to block off the inflammatory pathway. So basically, anti-inflammatories are literally blocking those inflammatory responses. So the examples, the technical, I guess, pathways: interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor, cyclooxygenase enzymes, so COX enzymes, TNF-alpha, and IL-3/6. There's lots of interleukins. They're all highly inflammatory pathways. So basically, we want to block those. So a few tips to be able to do that is, first of all, diet. So you will have noticed that there were a fair few dietary factors that we spoke about before. Any food that's high in sugar, that's highly processed, that's got a lot of saturated fats, it is more inflammatory. So they're really good to avoid. I think rather than thinking about it as what you need to avoid, I really like to think about it as what you should be looking to add in abundance to your diet. So choosing more whole foods, more foods that have come from the ground, lots of good fruit and veg, but also nuts, seeds, legumes, all really great to be eating. Obviously, we spoke a little bit about alcohol as well. So trying to cut or eliminate or cut back from your diet is also great. Lifestyle. So there are lots of lifestyle and I guess environmental factors that contribute to our levels of inflammation. So first of all, a really big one is pesticides. So any food that's not organic is likely going to bring with it some underlying, at least, level of inflammation. It's a bit tricky when it comes to organic produce because it's not always available, I guess, whether we can't find it or whether we can't afford it. It does get quite expensive to, purchase everything organic. So I think just choose what you can, look up the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. That's a really good way to see, if you need to be picking and choosing what you do or don't buy organic. It shows you which foods are more likely to hang on to pesticides and kind of harbor them and then influence our health, and which ones don't tend to hold on to them quite so much. So maybe they're the ones that we eat as non-organic. A fun-ish fact, the person who invented pesticides is also the same person who invented the gas used in the Holocaust. So we can see just how potentially potent this is. I mean, it's literally used to kill bugs, and then we ingest that as well. So something to think about. Using natural cleaning products is a really great one, managing your stress, exercising. And the last big tip is herbal medicine. So there are lots of different herbal medicines that have anti-inflammatory properties. But to make it simple for you, I would like to recommend our anti-inflammatory tea. So if anyone has used it before, you'll know that it's delicious. It contains turmeric, ginger, fennel, chamomile, licorice, calendula, devil's claw, and black peppercorns. So not only is it just a natural anti-inflammatory, it also then in turn helps to prevent damage from inflammation, oxidative stress. It also has ingredients in there that have been shown to support detoxification channels, so it can actually eliminate those toxins as well, stimulate the flow of lymphatic fluid, help to purify the blood, help to reduce pain, also stimulate digestive secretions and help ease stomach discomforts. It can help to enhance vitality and promote wound healing. Also, not just topical wound healing, because obviously you're not going to be rubbing your tea on your skin, but internal, so gut healing as well. So yes, this tea is delicious. It's one of my go-tos, and it's also got so many health benefits, particularly because inflammation does relate to a lot of different symptoms and presentations, but a lot of the herbs in there have their own amazing specific benefits. So if anyone would like to learn more, definitely jump onto our website. I'm going to be posting some stories this afternoon that will be related. But yeah, as always, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to comment them here. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Bye.